Hello, and thank you for joining me in this presentation. My name is Joshua Shook, and I will be presenting some core concepts of Amazon Web Services and Cloud Solutions. The purpose of today's presentation is to share some common practices of Amazon services, the technologies that they provide. Concepts also discussed will be benefits and disadvantages of both cloud technologies and local storage solutions. I aim to provide a common understanding yet technical overview of these concepts that everybody can understand. For this presentation, I'm going to cover three serverless Amazon Web Services. Lambda is a compute service that waits for an event. When that event is triggered, Lambda then takes the code that was written for the sequence and executes it. Lambda outside of the code is completely self-managed. That means all the developer needs to do is write and attach code. Simple Storage Service, or S3, provides bucket storage for each object. Objects, which are stored as keys, store the data of each object. So how does local storage stack up to S3? S3 will be able to provide scalability, monitoring, and additional resources within the AWS ecosystem. Local storage does provide a level of absolute control. This could be a burden for the developer, but it truly depends on the team. Although each has benefits and similarities, in my opinion, AWS wins this category. Using DynamoDB as your database and S3 as your object storage implements all of the same benefits while also adding in Dynamo's ability to easily import and export data to and from S3 objects. So what is an API? An API, or Application Programming Interface, in simple terms, is a call to a system in hopes of a response. Amazon, through their API Gateway service, provides the service of creating, maintaining, and securely monitoring different interfaces. The three types of interfaces available are REST, HTTP, and WebSocket. Through the RESTful app API, we can perform several functions such as get, post, patch, and delete. This is the full suite of create, read, update, and delete, or CRUD operations. Being able to implement CRUD controls is a critical piece of any application. API Gateway is also very easy to work with SDKs through a variety of languages such as Java, Ruby, and JavaScript. We are now familiar with three core concepts of AWS, but how do they mesh? The short answer, endpoints and proxies. Upon selecting the API that you want to choose, we can then attach endpoints to both the Lambda function and S3 bucket. Setting up those endpoints, we can integrate a Lambda proxy with Gateway. Through a JSON scripts, we're able to tie everything together, and before you know it, you have a front and back end service. MongoDB and DynamoDB are both powerful NoSQL databases. One of the first glaring differences is, like most AWS services, Dynamo is a service itself, while Mongo is a software. Um, the type of data stored is also different, as Mongo uses a collection document field approach, while Dynamo uses a table item attribute. As far as the comparison goes between the two of them, as you can see in the comparison, the pros and cons are pretty much flip-flopped. The keys for DynamoDB would be the scalability, security, easy management, all provided through all services through AWS. Um, and the pros for Mongo, the biggest one that stands out, the two biggest ones that stand out, I'm sorry, are it's able to used across multiple platforms and isn't tied down to a specific platform or cloud. Um, and it has more access to different data types. On the flip side of that, we could talk about the management, security, and complexity of MongoDB. And if you if that was your main fear, I would say go with Dynamo because AWS is going to provide all of that in a tight, neat package without any of the complexity. Um, the major downfall to Dynamo is it is tied to AWS, and you could get cloud locked into it quite easily. So cost and scaling. So scaling. So first of all, um, most development teams, the biggest thing that comes to mind is cost. Are we going to meet costs? Are we going to have to ask for more? Are we going to do this? Um, it's always going to be there. And in the grand scale of things, what drives costs? And that would be capacity, or the need for more capacity, or even less capacity. Uh, the auto scaling features within AWS will allow you to increase and obviously pay more, but you're getting that capacity and performance through the increase automatically. Alternatively, AWS is also capable of realizing you're not using all of your resources and that it's going to go ahead and shrink your capacity by a little bit, which in turn means you pay less. So it's kind of got that both sides model. AWS versus local, as far as cost and scaling, you're never truly going to see your costs go down in a local environment. AWS, like I said, auto scales down, you're automatically paying less. So, in conclusion, AWS is consistently looking out for you in terms of, are you using enough? Are you using too much? Can we shrink it? Can we raise it? They take care of that, which in turn, of course, drives the cost up or drives the cost down. And we all want to pay less money if we're not using everything. So, securing your cloud application is pretty straightforward. Um, IAM roles and policies dictate who can use what resources across a number of different things. As we see below, S3 is listed, database is listed, and API security is listed, and it is all recommended that you go with an IAM roles and policies foundation. Um, so what is IAM roles and policies? IAM roles and policies essentially just dictates users to specific roles who are then set to certain policies to access certain resources. Um, for example, think of a home computer with an administrator account. That account is able to set up what folders are able to be viewed by other users on the same computer, um, and whether they're able to write or read or any actions within that folder. That is what IAM rules and policies, and it is also the foundation of almost all other security platforms. In closing, there are 3 points that I want to reemphasize that I believe makes AWS a truly powerful solution for any project. Through auto scaling, we never have to worry about performance or capacity. Allowing a product to scale up or down is important in an ever-changing field. Associated costs with scaling are quite straightforward. If your capacity goes up, you're going to pay more. However, if you're auto scaling and the developer notices a dip and doesn't need quite much capacity, they can trim off the fat and in turn cut costs. AWS is the complete package for a single developer to a large team. Browsing their websites, they have bundled packages with solutions for several different industries. There are over 200 AWS services available. They include everything from media services to development, and of course, our trio of APIs, databases, and events. Finally, security and management. Security in mind is one of the most vital assets to an application. Without it, it can become complacent and mismanage our data, and we're left with a giant vulnerability. AWS provides built-in security for all your solutions.